Hello, and welcome to the Core Dog Experience, where I talk Ohio State Buckeyes. Talking Buckeyes from the fans' point of view. So if you're liking this segment, please hit the like button. If you enjoy Buckeye talk in general or Buckeye content, please subscribe. Help a brother build this thing up. That said, let's get into it. The early signing period has come and gone. And judging by the reactions, I was going to do a snap reaction, but as I looked into it and got to looking into it, I just had to sit back and just take a moment because I said, let me just see what's going on here because people were not happy with the results. They were not happy with the signing period. A good majority of folks were not happy with the signing period. The headlines were just crushing Ohio State. Ohio State disappointing early signing period. Ohio State going downhill. Ohio State lost out on another person. Ohio State lost out on this person. We lost this, that, and the other. Ryan Day, this. We're no longer an elite program. Now I'm like just scratching my head. Like, was it really that bad? Was it really that bad? Like, let me put a pause on my snap reaction, and let me just look at some and just let it marinate some and look and see how exactly our recruiting class panned out. Because initial reactions following the early signing period, you would have thought it was just piss poor. Just from the reactions on various social media sites, on different internet sites, different headlines, just how disappointing Ohio State's 2022 recruiting class turned out to be. Like, was it really that bad? It couldn't have been that bad, really. Let me just hold off on my snap reaction. Let me look at it some. Let me get into the numbers just a little bit and see if things are really that bad as it was seeming. It was just seeming to be. NILs destroying Ohio State. We behind the game. This, that, and the other. And I was like, I had to just look. I had to look and see if it was really as bad as I was reading. Because I seen who was signing. I'm like, all right, that's good. But then when you look at the totality of it, and people were not happy. A good percentage of folks were not happy. A lot of the headlines saying Ohio State did a bad job. I don't know. Just after I looked at it, had it slept on it some and looked at it, it's like I don't see what they were seeing. I really don't. I don't. Did we miss out on some folks? Yeah, but we miss out on folks every year. It ain't like this is the first year we missed out on some folks. We missed out on folks every year. So why is this year different? Just because of the stigma of the NIL and how we, I guess, are underperforming in that arena? I don't know. But so again, I looked at some of the recruiting services and some of the rankings and how some of the recruiting services had us ranked. The one I primarily use or refer to as 247 Sports. And so when you look at the numbers, I had to look at the numbers because when you look at just the headlines, some of the headlines are just clickbait. You say something negative about Ohio State, Ohio State fans, rabid fan base, we're going to lose our minds and we're going to react. And I'm assuming a lot of fan bases are like that, but I know Ohio State fan base, and that's how we react. So some of these headlines, they might just be clickbaiting how bad our recruiting class was for this early signing period. So I looked at the numbers. I'm trying to see. And, heading into early signing period, like I said, I refer to 247 Sports a lot for, I think they're one of the more premier ones. I think the Rivals is the other one, but the one I refer to a lot is the 247 Sports. And so looking at them heading into early signing period, they had us projected as the number 7 class based on who was committed. And we're going to circle back to that whole commitment term. But based on who was committed, we were clocking in at number 7 according to 247 Sports. So I said, that's still top 10. Not bad. A lot of folks didn't like us clocking in at number 7 based on the commitments, but we were clocked in at number 7 based on how 247 Sports had us. Now, following the early signing period, when everything was said and done, when all the letters of national letters of intent were signed, we went up from number 7 to number 5. We went up. We went for number. We climbed a couple spots after the early signing period. So again, I'm shaking my head like we climbed. We went up in the projected rankings, but people were freaking out. All these headlines on how disappointing a day it was for Ohio State. And I get it. It's Ohio State clickbait. Say something negative about Ohio State, you're going to get a reaction. But we went up from projected number 7, heading into the signing period, early signing period, to so far settling in at number 5 after the early signing period is all said and done. Now, looking at the headlines and all the comments and stuff following that, you never would have guessed that at the end of the day, Ohio State had the number 5 ranked class in the nation according to 247 Sports. And then I guess the other one I saw mention Rivals. That's another premier one that follows this stuff closely. They had us at number 4. So number 4 by Rivals and number 5 by 247 Sports. Top 5 class. You wouldn't have thought it looking at some of the comments. You wouldn't have thought it looking at the headlines. You just wouldn't have never thought that we had performed so well given the new era of the NIL and how poorly we have done in that. You wouldn't have thought it based on some of the stuff that was trending, some of the comments and the headlines. People feeling sorry. Yeah, people are feeling sorry for Ohio State. Ain't no one ever gonna feel sorry for Ohio State. I'm sorry. They just ain't gonna never feel sorry for Ohio State. But that was some of the headlines. People feeling sorry for how poorly Ohio State did after the early signing period. We're no longer elite. We just very good. We're no longer elite. And people are saying that after we got clocked in with the number 5 class, number 4 class. The 2 premier sites had us in the top 5, but we're no longer elite. I guess you're only elite if you're number 1. I don't know what separate. I don't know. But a lot of folks are no longer elite. We're just a very good program. We lost our elite status. Again, the numbers, when you sit back, look at it, the numbers don't reflect that. To me, top 5 class is elite. Top 10 class for the most part could be considered elite. Anything outside the top 10, yeah, you're a very good program. But Ohio State has consistently been in the top 4 or 5 for as long as since Urban got here. I know Tressel has some good classes, but like I said, Urban took us to a new level of recruiting, and for the most part, Ryan Day has sustained that during his tenure here. I do not see a dip in the rankings, not the way it was being projected. How we have just plummeted for some reason, I don't know. You got to look at the numbers. Number 5 class, and we're having a number 5 class, and you just look, and we got the least amount of commitments. Come back to commitments, you'll see. The least amount of people that were committed to Ohio State, the least amount of people that have signed with Ohio State. We're holding at 20 with the number 5 class. But then you got to look a little bit deeper. Look at the average rank. And you look at the average rank, we're in the top 2 or 3. We're right there for Alabama and Georgia. You look at the average rank for our recruits. I think out of the 20 people, one of them, I think only got one of them's a 3-star recruit. You can debate how important the stars are or whatnot, but that's a way to gauge how folks are doing. Out of our 20 signed folks, Jaden Bonsu signed late, but he signed. So out of our 20 folks that signed, only one of them is a 3-star. Everybody else is a 4-star, and I think we have 1 or 2 5-stars, which are our receivers. Brandon Ennis, and I don't know if Carnell Tate elevated, or no, one of those receivers may have elevated to a 5-star at one of the recruiting services. But 247 sports. I think only Brandon Ennis is the 5-star recruit, but that's it. Out of the 20 folks, only one 3-star. Everyone else is 4 stars, and got a couple 5 stars depending on what recruiting service you prefer. That's our class. Top 5 class. Average ranking per player is right there in the top 3. It's a numbers game. If we had more, I think the people above us, they just got more folks. I think Alabama signed 27 people. Georgia, upwards of 20. Everyone that's in front of us, they signed more than 20 folks. Ohio State signed 20. A lot of folks behind us signed more than 20, but Ohio State signed 20. We clock in at the number 5 recruiting class. So again, I just don't get all the negativity surrounding this class. And then some of us coming from a lot of Ohio State fans. You go up and down some of these some of the social media boards, and this is like I said, Ohio State's no longer elite. We're going downhill. And I mentioned it a couple of my segments ago. Go look at them. Go look at some of my Snapchats. Go back. I'm gonna be pumping some of my stuff because I want y'all to go look at my stuff. I'm trying to build it up. I ain't too proud to beg. Go look at some of my stuff. But I said a couple segments ago, Tressel and Urban Meyer, they have spoiled us. They spoiled us to the point where folks are complaining about having a top 5 class. Top 5 class, and folks are complaining about that. I mean, Jim Tressel, he didn't bring in, it took him a while to bring in, he was a good developer of teams. But our recruiting under Tressel was good. Like I said, our recruiting didn't take off until Urban got here. He took us to another level, and we've been spoiled ever since. We've been spoiled. But you look at our compliments over the past, ever since Tressel got here, ever since he made that pronouncement, how proud we were going to be of our young men when we go up to Ann Arbor, which we went up there and won. We haven't looked back since, and we've been spoiled since, to where now a top 5 class is looked as a disappointment. A top 5 class by many people is looked at as a disappointment. And we got to this top 5 class ranking despite all that's going on. The NIL, the transfer portal, Ohio State's behind the game, all that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the NIL stuff going on and the money being kicked around there, the transfer portal, how active or inactive we've been in the transfer portal. For all that said and going, or for all that going on, seemingly going against Ohio State, we still clock in with the number 5 class. So again, we are spoiled. And I'm not ready to push the panic button. Like I said, my previous Snapchat, go look at that one. When the quarterback decommitted, go look at that snap reaction. I'm gonna pump my other stuff. Go look at my snap reaction. But we're spoiled. And folks like to focus on anything negative towards Ohio State because it's good clickbait. It's good clickbait. Who got away? That's what the focus is. Who got away? So a lot of this disappointment started with some of the folks that we know decommitted early. We know we had the running back that decommitted early, and of course, piggybacking on that was the quarterback who decommitted, even though he's in the class of 2024, the number 1 overall recruit, decommitted, and he's probably going to end up at Nebraska. And again, I go into detail about that on my snap reaction. Go check it out. But I go get too much into that. But a lot of that's where a lot of that started. We lost the running back, I believe to Miami. I believe was Fletcher, who was a long time commit. He got away. Riola got away, and so as the day progressed, we had the cornerback from decommit, and he ended up committing to Auburn. So that's who they focused on. They focused on the guys that decommitted and the guys that left. They clickbait. This is who Ohio State lost. So again, looking back at it, and that's what the focus was. They focus on who didn't sign, who got away. And you look at some of the targets outside of the running back from The running back that they committed, I'll give you that. The cornerback they committed. The other guys they keep bringing up, they were never commitments. We never. And I'm gonna get that. They never commitments. Okay. The edge rushers from Georgia and the edge rusher from out here on the West Coast. I'm out here on the West Coast. Out here on the West Coast. Um, they chalk those up as losses for Ohio State, but you look at it, the guy that ended up committing to Oregon, Mateo, he was never coming to Ohio State. I don't know where that narrative got that he was coming to Ohio State. If anyone should be mad about him, it should be USC because I believe that's where he was predicted to go, was USC, not Ohio State. So I don't consider that a big loss for us to be disappointed over. But chalk it up. Mateo committed to Oregon over Ohio State. No, he committed to Oregon over USC. He was never coming here. 5-star. 5-star. That's why I connected to Ohio State because he's 5-star, and he did say a 5-star spurned Ohio State to go someplace else. He was never coming here. The kid out of Georgia, I think he was on some recruiting boards was leaning towards Ohio State, but come signing day, he decided to stay home in Georgia, and so that became a big issue. Ohio State lost out on another 5-star edge rusher. He got away. Oh my God, what's going on at Ohio State? They can't keep these. They can't keep him. Again, he was never a commitment to Ohio State. It was said he was leaning towards us, but he was never committed. So I'm not surprised a Georgia kid decided to stay in Georgia given their recent track record and their recent history of success. So I'm not chalking that up as a big loss, but that's who they were focusing on the two that got away. And then, of course, the running back that got away, that signed with Miami. So that's what the big thing was. That's what's so disappointing about Ohio State. Those two guys. The running back that went to Miami and the guy that flipped to Auburn. No good for them. Those are the two guys we lost. Those two guys, when you look at it, those are only two guys we actually lost that were at one time commitments to Ohio State. Now, commitment. That's a term moving forward now. We got to think of another word for commitment. We have to think because being committed, it carries no weight anymore. It got another phrase. I'm going to think, what's another phrase we can use for commitment? Because in this current context, and where it's being used now, it's just it's used. It's out stayed its use. Another word. So I'm thinking a tentative agreement. Verbal. I know someone say verbal commitment. Maybe just drop off the commitment part. It's just he gave a verbal to Ohio State. That way, it ain't locked in. Commitment's too strong a word nowadays. Moving forward, we gotta come up with another word. I know engaged. We engaged. It don't mean nothing until they walk down the aisle, put a ring on it. Other than that, because right now don't mean nothing. A commitment it's not a commitment. So you're engaged and you walk down the aisle and you say the I do's and get a ring on it. When you actually, that's what the national letter of intent is. The national letter of intent now, that's that ring. That's that ring now. Until then, it's just the commitment don't mean nothing. It's just a word. So just throw out some words to me. Throw out some words. I got verbal. Just verbal by itself. Don't say verbal commitment because we gotta eliminate commitment. Verbal, tentative agreement, engaged, put the ring on it, get that national letter of intent, the ring. I don't know. That's a good analogy. I think it's a good analogy, but we gotta come up with another word other than commitment because the commitment now it's a meaningless word in the world of recruiting. It's just hard to get excited now when you hear someone has committed to Ohio State or to any school at that point. It's a meaningless commitment. That's too strong a word for what's happening now in the world of college sports and in the world of recruiting. Commitment means literally nothing. To me anyway. I think we need a different word. Tentative agreement, verbal, just leave it at verbal. Gave a verbal word to Ohio State. I don't know. He's engaged to Ohio State. and then on signing day they'll put the ring on it, something. But we got to get rid of commitment. That's not working. So at the end of the day, though, Ohio State, to me, we lost two players that were committed, but in the process, we heard a ton about them guys, but we didn't hear hardly as much fanfare about the guys we actually flipped to come to Ohio State. We lost the running back, we lost the quarterback, but in the process, we flipped a quarterback from Washington. He was committed to Washington. Lincoln Kineholtz was committed to Washington. He flipped and came and signed, got engaged, got that ring on it. He signed for Ohio State. We flipped the defensive end, the edge rusher from LSU. He was an LSU commitment. We flipped him, and he verbal to us on signing day. Verbal. He signed the national letter of intent. He put the ring on it. That's one of them shotgun weddings. He put the ring on it on National Signing Day. The defensive end, edge rusher, Joshua Mickens, was committed to LSU. He's from Indiana. Had committed to LSU, decommitted, and he signed with Ohio State. So we lost two, picked up two, but the only two you hear about are the two we lost. You don't hear as much about the quarterback, which is the top 15 quarterback at his position. I think top 15 at his position nationally. The 4-star recruit. And we don't hear, and you heard a little about him, but not a ton, not as much as we did about the guys we lost. And about the defensive end, you don't hear anything about him. Of course, he's 4-star, and the two guys that were never really Ohio State guys, but they were 5-star. So yeah, you lose a 5-star, even though you never really had them. How you gonna miss something you never really had? I don't know, but the 5-stars we missed out on. You hear a lot about those, but you hear about the guy we actually got to commit from an SEC school. He flipped from LSU to Ohio State, but you don't hear as much about that. You don't hear me though. But it is it is what it is. Talking about guys that flip to come to Ohio State does not draw headline, just not get the fans going as 5-stars that choose to go someplace else, and it just doesn't do the narrative real good because someone coming to Ohio State just doesn't. It's not clickbait. Someone that's skewing Ohio State, someone going someplace else instead of Ohio State. That's good clickbait. That gets the trolls going. Trolls want to troll. So again, number 5 class. We don't talk about that enough. We talk about who left. We need to talk about who actually signed, who's actually coming here. Because who's actually coming here turns out to be the number 5 class in the land. Number 1 class in the Big Ten by far. Number 5, nationally, the next closest Big Ten team, I believe, is Penn State at number 13. And then Michigan's down, they borderline 20. So, again, I don't get where it's been so disappointing. We lost 2, we picked up 2. We hit a lot of needs. Again, I don't get it. We got a good class. A lot of them, it's another star-studded receiver class. Let's look at who we brought in. Another solid receiving class. Brian Hartline has done it again, and folks are happy with Hartline. He's the one guy that got praised. Will keep getting praised as Brian Hartline. He's done it again. Another 5-star recruit, potentially 2, depending on which service you prefer. He brought in another 5th year in a row. He's brought in a 5-star recruit at receiver. Lord forbid when he has a class, when one of the receivers he bring in is not a 5-star. Is it gonna hit the fan or what? When Brian Hartline fails to bring a 5-star into Ohio State, I'm gonna get popcorn out for that day because that's gonna be, whew. Trolls are gonna troll that day. I'm telling you. The moment that Brian Hartline does not bring in a 5-star at receiver, when he's done it the last 5 years in a row, ooh, that's how that's how our fan base gets. Once you start something, you can't go backwards. You can't go backwards. But Brian Hartline is the only one getting props right now for a while by how he's able to keep bringing in the folks. So let's talk about our receiver room. Is loaded. Again, folks want to talk about the quarterback we lost in 2024. They want to talk about the quarterback we brought in 2023, and just as a caveat, when I like to, like I brought it up a little bit in my previous segment about the snap reaction when Raiola decommitted. And I brought it up. You didn't start seeing stuff, he didn't start removing stuff from his profile until after the kid from Washington flipped. Yes, we flipped someone. Talk about it a little bit more. We flipped someone from Washington. I know he's not the number one overall recruit, but we flipped someone to come to Ohio State. And it wasn't until he committed to Ohio State that Bamoy started taking his Ohio State stuff off his profile. Now, maybe he's going to do it already. I don't know, but Dylan didn't start taking this Ohio State stuff off his profile until after Lincoln committed. That's all I'm saying. I'm just throwing it out there. Do with what you want. Do with what you want. But he didn't start removing his stuff till Lincoln committed to Ohio State. So let's talk about the quarterback who is coming. And I think we're getting a stud in Lincoln Kienholz. He's a multi-sport athlete. Those guys are always awesome. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. Again, I don't think he got enough fanfare about who he's coming. The only quarterback in the class. I think he's going to be good. So we'll see how that plays out. Again, let's talk about what they like talking about. Again, going back to who we lost out on. We lost out on the defensive end from Georgia. He decided to stay home. Not as much talk about the person we're bringing in from Georgia. We're bringing in the defensive tackle from Georgia, but he barely got a blip on the radar because he's committed. But we're bringing in someone in from Georgia. We hardly ever the defensive tackle, big body, play running back, a big body. You put him on the defensive tackle. I think on the interior line with that quickness, he could be a problem. But we don't talk about him as much. The Caden kid. So let's focus on some of the folks we got coming in. They talked a lot about the cornerback that flipped to Auburn. Not talking nearly about as much as the cornerback we're bringing in, Jermaine Matthews. I do believe he was the top cornerback target, and he stayed. We lost some safeties in the transfer portal, but we're bringing in 3 safeties. So again, let's talk about the folks that are coming to Ohio State. Let's talk about the folks that want to be here. I believe that's what Ryan Day focused on in this press conference. He wants kids who want to be at Ohio State. Some of them will tell you they had some of these deals that were better. I think Lincoln just came out and said he had a better offer to stay at Washington, to go to Washington, but he wanted to be at Ohio State because of the culture. So those are the kind of kids you want. If you got guys who are loyal to the money as opposed to the program, do you really want them? They're good to have on campus, but in the long run, are they going to stay there? Because again, previous video, I don't know how that stuff works. I don't know how the NIL works. I don't know. Once they get the money, are they locked in? I don't know. We'll say they can't get the money and they go on the next year. I don't know how any of that works. So I want kids who want to be here because they want to be at Ohio State. We got Ohio kids coming. That's a lot of stuff people were saying about. Ryan Day needs to keep kids in Ohio. We got like 7 or 8 guys that are committed from the state of Ohio, so it's a good Ohio class we're bringing in. And then, he got a good national base as well. So I think Ryan Day has done a good job. They got to coach him up, but again, top 5 class nationally, number 1 class in the Big Ten. Average person per ranks, top 2 or 3 is right there for Alabama and Georgia. It's a numbers game. If we had 25 commitments, we'd probably be higher up, but we only got to 20. We don't have the 20 commitments for now. This is the early signing period. We'll see what happens come February. So we can bring in some more people. Now the portal's sort of settled down some. Now we can pick and choose who we actually need to fill needs now. We can fill some needs now. So hopefully Gene Smith, Ryan Day, they'll utilize the portal to see what other folks are out there who are uncommitted, and they can fill out the rest of the class now best suited for their needs. And speaking about the NIL and the efforts, A lot of James Smith was taking a big hit because people don't think he's up to the task. And in a way, because you see what's going on at some of these other schools, um, like Miami, for instance. Let's go there. Miami. I don't know how true or accurate it is, but someone posted how much they paid to get the Cormani kid. Same thing with Fletcher. I don't know how much they gave Fletcher for him to flip from Ohio State to Miami, but if they're putting out that type of money, that's hard to compete with. I mean, it's that sustained. That was my thing. Is it sustainable? How are there's some of these schools are treating it like a sprint. But this NIL thing, I don't think it's going nowhere. I think it's a marathon, and I think Gene Smith so far is correct to take a step back and see how it plays out before before he jumps in and sees. Let it play out some. Let's see what these other schools are doing. We see here what they offered here to the Cormani. We know they gave the Fletcher kids some money. We see some other deals. Alabama. Is this going to be the new normal coming forward? You got the star rating and you got their NIL value. When I saw, I was like, damn, really? For real? Desmond Ricks, his NIL start. This is what his NIL value is. Is that what college is coming to? If it is, ooh, that's gonna be scary. But is it going to be sustainable? You give the kid the money, like I said, you give Desmond that money. Desmond don't like it. Desmond want to go someplace else. How do those contracts work? How does the money work? How does the money flow work? Once you give them the money, are they locked in until they go off to NFL? I still don't know how that works. I know it's supposed to come from, I'm assuming, alumni and boosters or whatnot. And I know some of these fan bases have stuff set up where folks can donate. But at some point, people are going to get tired of donating, especially if you donating and the money's going to these guys for these NIL deals and they transfer out because they get pissed off for one reason or another. Because Alabama is loaded, but I'll be very interested to see 2-3 years from now how much of those guys are still going to be there. I think they're bringing in 6 or 7 5-star folks. It's going to be just interesting to see how many of those guys are there 2-3 years from now. Because in a previous segment, go check it out, the SEC has the most players in the transfer portal. So I don't know if they're shoving kids out so they can bring more. I don't know what the SEC is doing. But, the NIL stuff, they've been doing this for years anyway. It's just now out and open and more legal now. But we all know they've been doing that stuff for years. Been doing it for years. It's just more out and open. They can flaunt it now. But we know they've been doing it for years. They've been doing it for years. But the SEC has had the most folks in the transfer portal. And they did last year. They did this year. I think you had the big rift between Saban and Jimbo Fisher. And look where Texas A&M ended up. They losing record. All the money they spent. Saban told you they spent. Texas A&M, they got an early jump on the NIL spend. They spent, and they losing season. So NIL doesn't always translate to a successful season. So I know Gene Smith is taking a hard hit, and some folks say we need to get our act together in terms of NIL, and I think we will. But let's take a step back and see how it plays out, because I think it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Spending all this money now, what's your return investment going to be on these players? Are they going to be there until 2-3 years from now, or are they going to take their money and look for the next best deal? Because the new ruling is these guys can transfer as much as they want. NCAA said, you know what? Do what y'all want to do. We ain't going to even try to police it. So if that's the way it's going to be, unless you got a more binding contract, once you put that ring on it, if you put that ring on it, you ain't got nothing concrete that you have to stay here 2 or 3 years. Who's to say Desmond Ricks ain't going to be gone this time next year if a better offer come up? So I'm not sweating Gene Smith right now until we see how some of this plays out, and then we'll see how Ohio State changes their game plan moving forward in terms of dealing with the NIL and the transfer portal, which is another big thing. I said we lost a couple folks. We see all these other guys Some of these other schools are benefiting from the transfer portal. You know, Ohio State, the last few years, we gotten a couple kickers. I'm not going to knock kickers because Noah Ruggles, he's coming. He saved our butt a couple times. But some folks are happy. Some folks, you can imagine, we getting kickers and long snappers, and these other guys are getting, premier offensive tackles and running backs and receivers. But Ohio State, we brought in a kicker and a long snapper through the transfer portal. But hold your roll. It's not done yet. We still got till February. We got to see what's out there. See what's out there. But like I said, the running backs, Mark Fletcher left. It could have been all NIL, but he probably looked at our running back room. Henderson's back. Mayan Williams, I think, is back. Dallin Hayden is back, even though there's reports Tennessee trying to steal him. But for now, Dallin Hayden's still on board. And by the way, Evan Pryor is going to be healthy next year. Chip Trayanum, he might be moving to running back full time. So again, I'm not worried about the Fletcher kid going. Again, look who's coming in off the thing. Got a good about 5 defensive backs, 2 of them corners, 3 safeties to replace the 2 safeties that are leaving. We're only bringing in the 1 linebacker, but I believe all our linebackers are coming back. Still Chambers announced he's coming back. We already got Eichenberg, Cody Simon, and we got the young kids, Gabe Powers, Reed Carrico. So you probably seen a loaded linebacker room. He said, you know what, I'm not going to play. So we got the 1 linebacker, which leaves a lot more space for down the road. So I think folks seen our some of our rooms and some of our positions and how loaded we are. They say, we'll take the money and we'll go and take our chances elsewhere. So again, who do we have here? And maybe that's affecting who we go after in the transfer portal. I know we've reached out to some offensive tackles because that's the one position of need. We losing Paris Johnson and DeJuan Jones. So we put some folks out, some feelers out there for offensive tackles. But so far, we haven't gotten any bites. But we'll see. We got till February, and then after the spring game, there might be some more folks hitting the portal. So we'll see how it plays out. But again, so it's just so when I just sit down, let it just all sink in, and we did not. The sky is falling stuff that was trending early on. It's just I don't see it. You focus at the folks that are already here, the folks we got coming in. Ohio State's not going anywhere. I think Ryan Day's done a good job. To say we're not elite, I don't know what you want in terms of being elite. I think anytime you bring in a top 5 class, that's elite in and of itself. I'm not one of these, at least right. I don't see anything to be worried about right now. I just don't. Could the coaching be better moving forward? Yeah, but as far as bringing in the talent, bringing in recruiting classes, I don't see how we are no longer. I don't see this downward trend that all these folks are predicting. I don't see where the disappointment is in this recruiting class, because I look at it and I see a dang good class. We address several needs. We filling up several needs in terms of safeties. We got 2 top flight corners coming in. We got people coming along the defensive line. Will Smith, the kid out of Georgia I mentioned. We're getting the Mickens kids who some have compared to a potential Chase Young. So we bringing in some good folks. We're bringing in some folks on the offensive line. We already talked about the receivers. The running back, we missed out on the running back, but we're not going to be hurting for running backs next year because our running back room is going to be loaded. Henderson should be healthy. Williams should be healthy. Hayden, Evan Pryor. So we're going to be good. Oh, by the way, our quarterback situation is going to be fine. Folks, why aren't we hitting the transfer portal for a quarterback? We don't need to hit the transfer portal for a quarterback. Again, I talk about the quarterback stuff in my snap reaction to Dylan Rayola decommitting. Go check it out. But we don't need a quarterback. Folks, we need a quarterback. What are we going to do with CJ Stroud's leaving? Do y'all remember, or should I say, did y'all forget when CJ Stroud started? He was following Justin Fields. He was inexperienced, but what did Stroud do? He went on, given this offensive system, given these receivers, he finished fourth in the Heisman. His first year starting. What did he do this year? Finished third in the Heisman voting. He beats Michigan. He wins the Heisman. I firmly believe that. You're not going to convince me otherwise. He would have won the Heisman if he beats Michigan. I firmly believe that. Despite the year and the numbers Caleb Williams put up, if C.J. Stroud would have beat Michigan, C.J. Stroud would have won the Heisman. Boom. That's all I'm going to say on that. But going into next year, we have Kyle. We got a 5-star person that's in the system 2 years. 5-star. He's already here. He's used to the system. We did not need to hit the transfer portal for a quarterback. Not only that, we got Devin Brown. That's going to be a good quarterback battle. Maybe one of them transfer, whoever loses. I don't know. But for now, we got a quarterback. We don't need to hit the transfer portal for a quarterback because we got 2 on staff. That's going to be dynamite given the system we're in, given the offense we're in, and whoever the quarterback of Ohio State is going to be an automatic Heisman Trophy contender. Period. He just is. So I'm not worried about the quarterback position. Receivers are too good. The offensive system is too good. I'm not worried about a quarterback spot. I'm not worried about Ohio State in terms of recruiting. I'm not worried about Ohio State in terms of the talent they are bringing in. All this gloom and doom. Fall in the early signing period. I don't see it. I don't see it. You cannot have a number 4, number 5 class and want to cry we're going downhill. We might at some point, but it ain't this year. Not with this class. No, number 5 class, number 4 some recruiting sites. We're not. Ohio State's not going nowhere. We're not going nowhere. Anyway, early signing period. I think we did a great job. Still got February. We use the transfer portal. We'll be interested to see how active we are in the transfer portal and trying to fill in some of these gaps if they don't feel we have the talent on the roster already. Because, we're in a position where we just reload. The talent's here. We just reload. Be interested to see if we bring in offensive tackles or are they happy with the folks we have here. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see how they approach that because that's the one area we're missing. We're losing Paris and we're losing Dewan. So it'll be interesting to see. If there's one position, I think offensive tackle, and we'll see what happens with the corners. A lot of folks were unhappy with the corner play this year, but they were young. I don't know if there's any corners out there. I believe I heard mention of the kid out of Virginia. I don't know if we're going to go after him or not, or are they happy with the corners we got here? I don't think we need any safeties. Got Hickman and Lathan Ransom. I believe they're coming back. Sonny Styles is already here. Kai Stokes is our defense is loaded. So again, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to approach it moving forward. NIL stuff, I think Gene's in the wait and see approach to see how it plays out. I do believe some guidelines need to be put in place. If I see these dollar amounts that I've seen floating around here that Miami's throwing out, that's been posted what Desmond Rick's value is. That's the new thing moving forward. It's going to be interesting to see how Ohio State and Gene Smith adjust to that. But again, early signing period, I think we did an excellent job. It's not gloom and doom. Ohio State, to me, my opinion, we still elite. We still top 4, top 5. We still recruiting wise, we still dominate the Big Ten. Ryan Day got to figure out a way to get over the Michigan hump now, but on paper, we dominant. We dominant. And we should still be winning the Big Ten. And some folks don't even care about winning the Big Ten no more. I don't know. Like I said, trolls will be trolls. Some folks you're just never going to make happy, but it is what it is. But top 5 class, y'all. We're not going nowhere. The sky's not falling. NIL or not, Ohio State did a good job just recruiting cycle. And they do have some stuff to figure out in terms of moving forward and how they're going to operate within the NIL and what some of these other schools are doing. But for now, we good. We looking good. Ohio State ain't going nowhere. We going to win in Georgia. We going to beat Georgia. I already told you my prediction. Go check that one out too. Until next time. Until next time, OHIO. And you know it, if you're liking this segment, hit the like button. If you love Buckeye Talk in general, please subscribe. You want to comment below about anything. In particular, the commitment. Do we got to change that phrase? I think we got to change it. If you think we got to change it, hit me what some of your suggestions might be. Hit me up in the comments. But till next time, OHIO, go Bucks.